afraid no more.
It was those nights being the lowest of the low and like rock bottom that those really made me and defined me to where now is like nothing really scares me.
This means war. Feel it raging inside. We don't run from the battle, we run straight to the fight. This means war.
You know, my reality is great now, but now I need something to make everything worth it. Like something tangible that you can hold and see that makes my whole 32 years of existence worth it so far. For my first pro boxing bout, I've always said that I just want a belt. I just want one belt. I don't care.
So we had the first half of the title fight at Knucklemania II, Christine Ferea, and now we have the 2021 BKFC Fighter of the Year, Hart, who will be facing Christine for the inaugural 125-pound BKFC title on February 19th. Is it? No, yeah,
Yep.
February 19th, exactly. So how are you and how do you feel about this bout agreement finally being signed?
I know, finally. I feel really happy about it. It's kind of like the same thing. It reminds me of my first Knucklemania that I was at against Paige Van Sant. I really begged for that fight and asked for it, and they were like, no. And then finally it ended up happening. And you know, that was kind of my motivation factor going into Knucklemania is like, I asked for this fight and I wanted this. So I have no choice but to win, you know, because I'm that confident about it. And the same thing with this Knucklemania 2. It's actually kind of cool that I'll be on that again, the second one, and it being a rematch against a fight that was back in 2019. So I feel like I'm way more like better and fully equipped to face this and get this redemption back. I do think that she has the most experiences number of fights. So really just to go out there and shut up everyone and prove everyone that I'm number one, the best female, and make history and be crowned the first female BKFC champ. I mean, I'm super excited. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is and of course you said, you know, you gave credit to Christine and her credentials and her record, so I think like beating her makes you undisputedly unanimously seen as probably the best fighter in the division, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of it's crazy, but a lot of people give her a lot of respect and you know say that she's the most feared fighter in BKFC.
Mm.
So it'll be really awesome to expose that and be kind of you know like I said the real. She's always saying finally real competition coming in, and then I ended up smoking the real competition. So I guess I'm really the only competition in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. Like you've sort of started making a business out of like you know, shutting the doubters down in a way. Because every time, I don't know, you probably agree, the BKFC has tried to bring in some big names from the UFC, you know, to promote them, and have them be like the poster people. It is their homegrown talent that's, you know, beating those, let's say, hype trains that they're bringing out.
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah.
it is, and it's kind of like how I started with the first Knucklemania saying that too. Like I really believed, you know, me being that fighter that I'm better and that BKFC's homegrown fighters are better than anyone's that they do bring in. But it
Mhm.
kind of, you know, as you see, it's like one of those things. Um I keep shutting up the haters and doubters, like you say, but it still seems that more hate or doubt is created. So it's funny, you know, one win, maybe two wins can be lucky, but this is going to be my fifth, about to be sixth win in a row. So I feel like, you know, I wish that people would just get on board with that I'm the best and that, you know,
Mm.
and stop doubting and hating on me. But I don't know. They say, you know, once you reach to the top, the bigger that target gets. So it's kind of like video games. If you don't have a lot of enemies, you're going the wrong way, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's. Look, Christine agrees with that notion too. Like, she did tell me in the interview, like she's happy in the end that, like, she's somehow satisfied that it's the homegrown talent that's fighting for the belt in the end. So I do think she is alright with the fact she likes the fact that you beat like the Paige Van Zandt and Pearl Gonzalez and but what like why do you think where's the doubt coming from? Like there's still a lot of doubt in people's minds and like about your ability. Like where do you think that comes from? Like where does that stem from? Is it the way
I
you
don't know. I
act? Is
think
it like what do you think?
I think that's a really good question. And I've really tried to like examine it myself. And I don't now, but back earlier, I used to lose a lot of sleep over like, why am I not good enough for these people? Like, what else can I do? Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm not like parade, before it was like so bad, like years and years ago to like be like viewed as promiscuous or slutty. It was so bad to be viewed as that, so I stayed away from that. And it's like that's still not good enough. I work hard. I've always worked. I provide. I'm independent. I'm not riding off the coattails of other people or other teams, so it
Yeah.
can't be that. And then it's just like
Yeah.
I don't it's so weird, but the only thing I can think of is like that you don't want to say people are jealous or anything, but I feel like some people are like envious, like, how did she do this? She only started boxing when she was 25. She didn't have an amateur career.
Mm.
Kind of unorthodox. You hear a lot of people say, oh, she's not the most skillful fighter, but it's like, kind of like I just work on skill and technique every day. Like I never just go in. I actually am opposite. Like when people tell me to just hit the bag as hard or fast as I can, I'm like, but why? Because I can have any Joe Schmo off the street stand in front of me and tell me to hit this bag as hard as I can. Like that's easy. It's the technique that comes into like, is your foot turning, your hips turning, or your hands turning? Are you bringing them back? Like the technique is what I'm really, really been focused on all these years. And I feel like, people see a huge improvement with each fight, and it's kind of cool and different because I think a lot of fighters you kind of see like the same style of fight over and over, like they're kind of one dimensional as a fighter, which is unique and cool to them, but you kind of know what you're getting into. With me, it's like you really never know. So but it's better each time, I think. And yeah, I
Do you
really
think like
just
no? Do you think it makes you more adaptive towards like the game plan of the opponent? Like, so you're not really completely stuck in one game plan or one way of fighting. That even if they start dictating the pace or they start dictating the game plan or how it's being implemented, that you can react to that more. You know what
yeah,
I'm trying to
no,
say?
exactly.
Like,
I
yeah.
think that honestly, a lot of my like criticisms and a lot of the mean things people say have kind of been my saving like grace and glory. Like people used to say, oh, she's a gem hopper, blah blah blah. And it used to be a really bad thing associated when I first started. But now it's like the total opposite, because I've never burned bridge at any gym that I've been to. And you've seen me, I go to all the same ones over on a repeat. But it's like by
I
doing
mean,
that, it made me super diverse and adaptable to different styles. Because, I trained out in Las Vegas for 2 months, and their style of fights is way different than Florida and way different than up north. I was up in
mm,
Philly. I've been training in Virginia.
mm-hmm.
Down in Pensacola with Roy Jones Jr. So it's just, I've
Okay.
been dealing with a bunch of different fight styles. And again, because I was thrown to the wolves so early in my career, I feel like I really had a crash course on learning like how to adapt to things. Like, for example, I fought this one girl who was Orthodox, and I was doing really well against her. So in the third round, she switched to southpaw. And I was like, oh shit, I was not ready for that. But what a great lesson, because now if someone was to ever switch stances on me or be in a southpaw, it wouldn't, bother me at all, because again, that journey has just made me so adaptable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get back to the well, of course. So, I was gonna get back to that later. I guess the rule sets, and it's a new sport. It's different techniques and all that. So, but first, before we do that, like, let's go to your early life. Like, why did you start fighting? Where, like, what really got you into doing this professionally? Like, why are you fighting?
Right. Well, I was always heavy into sports, but I never did combat sports. I really wish I did, but I never did. I played soccer and basketball, and I did like some powder puff football, and stuff like that. But I went to school. I was actually getting my master's in physical education and a concentration in sport management.
Oh.
And right when I finished my degree, um, it was literally just a crazy thing, but I went out and I never really party or go out because I'm in school working all the time,
Mhm.
and I was a single mom. But I ended up getting a DUI, and when I got the DUI, it really messed me up. I would go to all these job interviews. Like, I'd have these people call me and be like, "Oh, put your application in. Well, we need your application, but we're gonna set you up with an interview." Like, I already had the interview before I did the application, but then I would go in and they'd run my background report. And when my background
Ah,
check would come back, it was just, and I explained it, but, at the end of the day, it's just so hard because the society we've built is so litigious and so like looked on being negligent when they hire people that have like
yeah.
charges, especially pending charges. So really, like, I really feel and try to like fight for the awareness and like people that are stuck in the system, because once you get in the system, it's almost virtually impossible to get out, and your life is just really on a down spiral because of the fines. You can't get a job, and then you're just behind on everything. It was like why
I
a lot of
mean,
people turn to like drugs and alcohol and do live on the streets, because once you get in the system, it's ridiculous. But I, being the fighter that I am, I'm really like fought really hard to get out of that, and it did seem impossible at times, but
mhm.
that's what led me to boxing, because I tried to get a job. I was so broke. I didn't have any money. It was definitely one of the worst. I had other personal problems that were associated with it, and I kind of was like, man, my life is ending. I have to escape somehow. And I went to a boxing gym, and I literally went in there like, man, I need someone to just beat the shit out of me. And they were like, wow, you're
Is
crazy.
that
Why
what?
would you say
Damn.
that? And
Is
I'm
that
like,
what
dude,
like
I need it. I need
you?
it because I'm fucking up all over the place right now.
Was it
And,
just like
I,
self-loathing? It's like I need a slap in the face, and you took it literal. Like,
yeah, I really did.
really?
And it was
Ah,
like, I needed that, like, wake up, like, survivor kind of, like, that
yeah.
urge to fight back. Cause I
Right.
kind of was like, I'm just
You needed
okay with
discipline.
being, yeah, upset. So anyways, I was in there. I was only in the gym for 4 months, and I was just killing the other girls that were in there. And it was kind of funny because they were like, are you lying to us? Like, they thought I was like lying to them and bluffing
Yeah.
that I had boxed before, because I was just like, I had tons of street fight experience and totally fought, in my backyard all the time. But as far as putting gloves on, I never did
Yeah.
that. So, anyways, 4 months later, I had my first pro fight. I won, second round knockout. It was awesome. And it was like, I was hooked. It. And even when I actually beat a shitload of legal charges, and even after beating them, it didn't even matter. I didn't, I was stuck in boxing, and
Yeah.
that's really what I wanted to do. I got a really good job as a recruiter shortly after, but then I ended up quitting that because you know working like 8 to 6, and then they were making like Saturdays mandatory and stuff. It
Jeez.
just
Oh.
takes up a lot of your time. And I really knew that I could be great and be amazing at this. And I kind of looked at like the other professional fighters that were on top, and it was like that was their life. They train morning, afternoon, evening, and
Mhm.
dedicated their life to that. So I took that route too. And it was definitely a struggle, but it like, as far as just a
But
year
like,
ago, it finally all came full circle.
but then of course, the road to that is like if you're gonna start dedicating your life to the sport, the money will suffer. Like financially, you're probably gonna suffer. Like you just took the gamble. Like, weren't you worried? Like, what were your worries and concerns, or did you just go in head first, knowing you would make it?
Well, it was definitely a roller coaster. When I first I went in thinking I would make it. I had, like I said, I did really good before I got into a bunch of trouble and personal issues. But I actually bought my house when I was 22. So I owned my house. Well, I mean, I pay mortgage on it and whatever, but I
Hmm.
wasn't renting. So I had my house, and So that was, taken care of. And then when I was boxing, I was kind of just like, I'm going to make it, it's going to be easy. And then it like, the manager I had and coach was really terrible. And the fact that it got really ugly as far as like women, male female relationship that was kind of like abusing their power hierarchy wise. And so because of that, that caused a whole array of issues. And then I had a really toxic, abusive ex-husband who like ended up being like really, he got arrested for felony assault and strangulation. So there was that whole issue of going through that. And then after that, it kind of, like I said, just way more stuff happened. And trying to dig myself out of that, I ended up spending like a lot of money as far as like getting credit cards and opening them up and, just the worst of the worst. And then because of that, I actually moved out of my house because I was like, I don't know what to do. So I rented out my house. So it paid for my mortgage, and I ended up choosing just to sleep out of my car for like a couple years so I could still go to the gym and still, do boxing, but I didn't lose my house because I kind of had someone else renting it out. And it also kind of gave me money too, to like, a little bit of money as far as for gas. And then I ended up like working as a waitress and bartender and basically getting just enough money to make my gas and pay my medicals. And so I did that for a while too. And, like I said, I took some huge risk, by going out to like staying in Florida. I moved to Florida for a year. Then I went out to Vegas for a couple months. And then I stayed in Philly for 4 months.
Really like going where all the gyms are, and you had
Yeah.
a daughter, right, at this time?
Yep. And that was part
That
of
is
like the
crazy.
whole tragic mess because they lived with me and I took, I was their sole provider until my son was 6 and my daughter was 3.
Oh, okay,
And
I thought you had one child. You have two.
yep, nope, I have
Okay.
2. But when my ex-husband ended up like pushing me down the stairs and like stomping on my face and beating me up pretty bad, my kids were there. So because my kids were there, it actually people were really not helpful as far as like knowing that I was going through a really traumatic, hard time. And they kind of just came in and, I lost custody of my kids because that whole incident happened in front of them. But, I ended up getting custody of my daughter back, but my
Crazy.
son was a different story. So they didn't, I ended up getting a protective order against my ex-husband. We got divorced. But even in that circumstances, because I was still boxing and fighting, they kind of really believed that I was putting domestic violence in front of them.
That
So
sucks. Yeah,
me and my daughter was perfect. So that's why a lot of people would assume that, I just probably have a daughter because I never really lost custody of her and she was with me all the time. But my son and I feel like, it really comes down to money because they had a lawyer that just did a bunch of shit. And I mean, a lot, like it was awful. Like it was just a lot more than I really care to like talk about openly right now. But it was like probably I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy because it was really, really traumatic what they did to me. And, I tried like, go to counseling. I went to domestic violence counseling. I went to parent counseling. I went to, I had to go to a rehab. So I went to rehab. And then even going through all those steps and never missing and going into court, they still were like, basically that's the worst thing you can hear in the world to someone who loves their kids. I coached my son for 8 seasons in soccer and swim team and hockey. Like I was that mom. And then to have them take him away was like, really it kind of did the opposite after trying for so long. And it made me like, it was kind of like one of those things, like I said, once you get in the system, you never get out. It's like, fine, if this isn't going to help, I'm going to be a piece of shit. Cause I was really like, so I was turned to alcohol really bad and I ended up getting, going back on that route. And I really, honestly, to be honest, I was really just trying to stay alive until he was 18 and whatever way I could, whether it was being distracted by boxing or drinking or whatever it was, to stay until he was 18, I could get that piece of me back. Cause I love my daughter more than anything. She's my best friend, but my son was definitely I mean, my kids are my world, and a lot of people don't realize and see that, but not being with them is really hard. But if I think and reflect on it, it makes me go on a downward spiral instead of being up and looking at the bigger picture for like when they graduate high school, when they're adults, and when they have their own
Yeah.
kids, I'm still going to be there for them.
I love the we get to see this side. I mean, I think it'll help get, because this is a very relatable story, like to a lot of people. Whether it's this intense, it differs per person, right?
Right.
But everyone has those struggles and those moments, and you always get to this like crossroads where like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to push through this one barrier to make it to my goals, and I might be stuck in this life forever, like your previous life. And I like this shows like just how much hard work you do put in. And I like the fact that it sort of reflects in the resurgence in your career, sort of like what you found in BKFC, I think. Because I feel like through grit and through mental strength is what really has gotten you these wins that people didn't expect you to get, right?
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because I think about it, because I know she's kind of like coined her camp, like her ratchet training camp or whatever, she really wants to focus on me being ratchet. And I'm
She
like,
does like
man.
yeah.
And then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just being something that I've really learned is like taking things and putting a positive spin on it. And it's like, I told you, I actually graduated with a 4.0 for my master's. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
that didn't really make me. And I don't know, playing,
Yeah.
playing soccer and having tons of friends, that didn't make me, having a good, family system, that didn't make me. It was being rock bottom and living out of my
Mhm.
car and struggling, and all those nights like losing sleep and thinking, how am I going to fight back? And it was those nights being the lowest of the low and like rock bottom that those
Mhm.
really made me and defined me, to where now is like nothing really scares me. Like that's what I said, like I'm used to being, like I've had somebody jump me and beat me up in my car and pull me out of my truck and drive off with my vehicle before. Like, you think that I'm worried about going into a ring with a ref that is there to save you and protect you? Like,
Mhm.
that shit doesn't bother me at all. When I've been in situations in the middle of the night, my stuff has been thrown outside, living, house to house and being in trap houses. And, like I said, I mean, it was a very, I guess, terrible way of living, but it was like one of those things. I really had no choices at the time. I didn't have anybody, my family was, thank God we've kind of fixed it now and everything is getting a little bit better. But back then, I didn't have a family that really helped me or supported me.
Mhm.
They were, really, really negative. And, it was part of me too. I felt like that a lot of people backstab me. So I literally just kind of didn't want help from people anymore, because if they would turn that against me in the end. But now
Right.
it is that confidence of it. And man, like life is so great right now. Like I genuinely mean that. Like thinking about living out of attics and out of my car, and now I'm in a apartment in Miami. I'm around people that I love. I finally have
Yeah.
a really unconditional loving family. And I get to see my son. I spent a whole week with my son for Christmas. So things are really picking up now. So I'm nothing but confident and happy. And again, it's kind of like even winning this title going forward is like the ultimate, I feel like, just ending to such a good story and a fight back journey on
Yeah.
making it up the ladder.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So part of this new Britain Hart Beltran now is meeting Joey, right? UFC veteran, went into bare knuckle fighting as well. And you give a lot of credit to your marriage, right? To in terms of that's a big pivotal thing that changed your life as well, right? In what ways? Like you were, so first you hadn't met him yet, right? Around the Page fight, because I consider like the Page fight is the one that got you on the radar. Sorry, I think I might have lost your audio. You?
Nope. Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you. Right, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So but so you got the Page fight, and that's how you got on my radar. That's how you got on everybody's radar in the end. So what stage were you in life then? And when did you meet Joey? Like, how did that progression go?
So I got on his radar in December. There was a BKFC fight, and I was actually really upset because I heard like Sheena Starr was talking shit about me, and I think it was like Jenny Savage too, who were like they wanted the Page fight. So I'm like, again, one of those girls, I'm not gonna call you a keyboard warrior. I was like, I'm gonna show up at your front porch and be like, what the hell's going on? So, anyways, I made this announcement. I'm going in this fight, and if they try to take that fight, I was gonna, be very vocal about it. So I warned everybody, but I made sure that I went down there. So I went down there by myself, and then Joey, I guess because where he was the heavyweight champ, he had like make an appearance or something. So he went down there by himself. So they actually ended up making our assigned chairs.
Were you going to?
VIP
Is that like
together.
you were going to attack? Like you're gonna go yell at the president, at Mr. David Feldman, and everyone, or that's what it
Yeah,
was?
I was.
All
If
right,
they
yeah.
said something, off the wall, but they never did, because I mean, I made it
Mhm.
very vocal in public that why I was going to the fight was to make sure that nobody said anything stupid about me or about the fight with Paige, because I would have made it, and they didn't. So they fought and everything was cool. So, I didn't have to do anything, but that's definitely why I was there.
Mhm.
Was trying to compete and fight for that Page spot, which just kind of sounds silly now that you think
No,
about
but
it. But at the time, it was like she was the first sign there. And I really feel like it was, and I'm glad, because I feel like if she would have got if she would have got Jenny Savage or Sheena Starr, she would have beat them. And then,
Hmm.
it would have been maybe more of like a, an up. So I feel like me fighting her first and
because then you'd have a
beating
longer
her.
path.
Yeah, I feel like
No,
it
but
was just
this
really
is the
crucial.
industry. Like this is the thing you learn that you're never taught. Like those are the things that sell. Like you have to call for your shots. That's a great opportunity. This is like a business. It's a business decision to even if you want to call it act ratchet towards like to get that thing, to get that fight.
Yeah.
It's a business decision. Like you wouldn't be where you are in a way. Like at least you wouldn't have gotten there this fast if you didn't do what you did that day.
Right. Yeah. And I
And
had
would you
no
have met Joey
motivation. I
then?
was like, nah. I was like, I'm not worried about it. And I actually had someone give me a pep talk. They were like, no, you go and demand that shit. That's your fight. You earned it. And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's
Got
what I
fired
did.
up.
So, but it did,
Yeah.
because a lot of people said, like I made this video and they're like, if you didn't make that video, you probably would have not got it either. So it all worked out pretty perfect. But Joey was a really good friend. We bonded big time at that fight. We were just like, we had known each other our whole lives. We were making jokes and like fake commentating the fights.
Oh.
And we were just really in our own world there. So that was really cool. And then he helped hook me up with like Royal Kratom as a sponsor. So that was like super awesome of him. And yeah,
I didn't
so
know you knew
we
each other.
stayed in,
Yeah.
yeah, we stayed in good touch that way, as far as like friends and business wise. It was really cool. Like he helped me and was like kind of the middleman, getting that sponsorship out. So super happy and blessed for that. And then I seen that he moved to, I was out in California, so he was in San Diego, which is like 3 hours. So he drove to kind of come to the gym I was at, and we did a few workout sessions together. So it was really cool. Like we already like really were familiar with each other. And then in the Page fight, it was funny because he came into the locker room and we had like a little moment in there. And then at the end of it, it was just so crazy. But I think he tried to like see me after the Page fight, but I was just like definitely like,
High on
I'm
life.
feeling, I was crazy that night.
You were being a
So
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really remember too much of it, but I know I was like an emotional
Well, I kind
roller
of feel like
coaster,
I
that's for
know
sure.
what kind of state of mind you were in. Like I know that feeling of when you were in the ring and like this such an outburst of emotion and like probably like you have a big say now in the company after that win. And all the media wants to interview you, you just like, because the Page thing was a huge deal. Like everybody was like, nobody ever had like the women, at least in BKFC, didn't have much attention. when it started, and they're like, "Wait, Paige is gonna do bare knuckle? Okay." Everybody tuned in, and then they're like, "She lost. Okay, she lost." Like, and fair and square. I mean, like, I had you winning too.
Yeah.
So, but that's like, it's a huge moment. Like, it just catapults you from kind of like a regional kind of level fighter, right? In terms of notoriety or like name recognition, to like, oh, everybody, at least the people that don't watch the sport will still see you as the one. That's the one that beat Paige Van Zandt, right? So they'll recognize you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Which
a
is,
life changing
yeah.
moment.
Yeah,
I can
and that's
understand.
cool too. I like it, and it's kind of like I said. It was like I felt like a real good start, like a true start on being somebody, and really being like a what they would call like a household name. So instead of being like just the feeling or just the girl that beat Paige Van Sant, it was like the first real step of okay,
Mhm.
now this is Britain. We know that girl. And we know what she's capable of.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like you're not that person. It's like it's the first. It's like you're born now. You're reborn again. This was
Right.
your rebirth. Yeah.
Yep.
And
No,
now it's up to you to carry
absolutely.
it, and you've been carrying it. So yeah.
Yep. I definitely agree with that, especially going and yeah, just
Hmm.
the fights after it too. I feel like they've all been really good fights too, like super, you know, sometimes there's some fights that you see that are kind of like they're I don't want to say boring, but kind of lackluster. And I feel
Yeah,
like all my
they're full of
fights have been
action.
pretty epic.
Hmm. They're action packed for sure.
Yeah,
And
for
this is back
sure.
and forth, and yeah, like the pro fight. Your most recent fight was really back and forth. Like, I enjoyed that. Yeah, it's exciting. And then so you connected. Sorry, I keep it's my fault. I keep moving away from the whole like Joey thing.
Yeah.
And then you got
So no, so me
married.
and Joey,
Yep.
we met. Yeah, so we were already good, and then I guess he moved to Miami, and I was like really in the process of moving to California, and so I was like, well, dang, now you're on the East Coast, and I'm on the West Coast where it was flipped before. So he said, well, why don't you come in? Because I was already going to the fight in
Mhm.
Mississippi, and he was like, why don't you come and check out Miami for like a week or two? I was like, okay, that sounds good. I don't, whatever.
Let's catch up.
Miami is really nice. Why not? But he got me a one-way ticket, and I was kind of like, I don't,
That's
I don't really, I can get my own ticket back. That was cool.
Mhm.
And then we came down here, and we really like, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes. And we were like literally, hand in hand. And since that day, I guess it was March 17th. So St. Patrick's Day, kind of cool. But since March 17th, we've literally been like under the same roof every single day. Like maybe the longest we've been away from each other is like 3 or 4 hours, and it's only happened like once or twice. So we've really been killing it. And
Mhm.
it's like even my coach said that, I call him, I'm like, I'm so sorry, change of plans. And he's like, hey, you're in love, and if you've spent a month with that guy and he's not, and he can take your talking, then he's that's it, that's your keeper. So I thought that was pretty funny because me and Joey are really like, I know a lot of people think whatever, but it's really a match made in heaven. Like everything that we are complements each other. Our interests are perfect, our differences are perfect, and it's just, I mean, really, I tell everyone he is my missing piece, and I do contribute him to a lot of my continued success, because as I was telling you before, like my escape from reality was when I was fighting. Like, crazy story, like
Mhm.
when I told you I got actually like literally jumped and my car stolen from me, I had stitches in my mouth and a broken nose. And I contacted these people in Texas for a fight. And my coaches at the time were like, no, that's a bad idea. Like you still, like you have stitches in your mouth, you need to heal. And I was like, look, if I don't take this fight, I'm gonna do something really, really bad and idiotic because of how like upset and depressed I am from this. And I just need to take something off my mind from what just happened to me.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, and they supported me on it. But I was like getting into that route, like where I would fight just to like make myself, because if I don't have a fight, I would drink and smoke and not care because it was like, why did it matter? But when I had fight, I was like, no, if I drink something, I'm gonna lose. If I smoke, I'm gonna lose. If I'm not being
Yes.
healthy, I'm
Oh,
gonna lose. So that
yeah.
fear of losing would always make me like cut out all the bad and toxic things. But if I didn't have a fight, it was like kind of what's the point? So now with Joey, it was like now that I'm not fighting, I have like this other, when we talk about it a lot as fighters, you need to have like a backup plan because like sometimes you find fighters it's really hard for them to quit because you know at the end of the day like that's what they know, like their identity is being a fighter. And like even after the Page fight, I was actually super sad and really depressed after the Page fight.
Mm.
um which just hasn't been the case now. Like after the Jenny Savage fight, I was great.
Why do you
After the
think?
Pearl Gonzalez fight, I'm great. But after the Page fight, I was definitely down in the dumps for a couple weeks until I went out. I actually made myself go out to Puerto Rico to kind of be like reinvent myself and get over that shit. But
Yeah.
with Joey, it's like he is my backup plan. Like he is my after fighting plan because, when we're not fighting, we have each other, which is something I've never had. And he's really big on, he is sober and doesn't drink. So it really makes it just perfect for me. So I haven't drank in this past year at all. And not even because I haven't been in fight camp, but just because being around Joey, I remember how bad it was for me. And I'm like, man, if I drink around someone who's trying to cut alcohol out of their life, like I'm really not helping in their journey and their process of healing, but hurting them. So I actually like he never asked me to quit drinking or anything. I just did it on my own, but it ended up being like something so beneficial. And almost mind-boggling that I'm like, man, I can't believe I've done it. But he really is that why and that source of wanting to be better all on your own without it being like conditional or just a short term.
So it's like it takes away a lot of the distractions that are outside of fighting that can distract you from fighting, and it allows you to just focus on that at hand, and you know that like what comes after, it's like it's all good, like you got that.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about slipping up. You don't have to worry about getting depressed and like, yeah, that's awesome. That's mental. Like so the sport, all sport is like 80% mental. People say 75%, 80% mental. So if you got that one in check, I mean, it makes sense that you can put all your energy into the physical side and the skill side and the preparation of that. Awesome. No,
Exactly.
good. It reminds me a bit of like what you said about the like feeling depressed after and down after the Page fight. It's like I don't know if you're too big on like Tyson Fury and like he said that because he had but he has like a lot of mental health issues going on. He's outspoken about it. He has major severe depression, and his whole life he had worked towards getting becoming the world heavyweight champion in boxing. Like I don't know if you're aware of the story.
Yep.
So once he got that by beating Klitschko, he instantly got a depression because he's like, I'm so young and I won the world title and this is everything I've worked for my whole life. This is everything I have, and now I've reached the goal and now I have no more goals.
Yep.
I don't know if it was something like you're like, not that that was your end goal, but it was the biggest moment of your career at till that point. So
Right.
I don't know if that's what played a role. It just reminds me of that.
Yeah. Well, it kind of was like, it was like I really felt like I never really felt like I belonged and something like things were missing and I never really felt like I had anybody there for me. And when I was in California, it was the first time I really felt like, like I belonged and that this was what I needed to do. And I felt really safe there. And that's something I've never like ever experienced. So then after when the fight was, but of course I told you I have two kids and they live in Virginia. So being in California was super hard being away from them. So I chose to go back to Virginia to see them for and then I was staying over there and to be closer, so I chose my kids. But it was just one of those things like I felt so sad like being there, even though I was with my kids. It's just like a horrible feeling to kind of describe it. Almost like makes you want to cry when it's like your kids are everything. But when you're right there, like, just finding the joy in life is kind of hard because you feel like I just don't feel like I'm safe or I'm
Mm.
protecting them, but who at the end of the day is protecting me, And
Right.
so it was kind of like that sad. And then it was training for this fight. And like you said, it's like, now what? And Joey has shared that with me as well. Like his goals, he has an amazing fight story too. And like his goals were like, get to the UFC. And he did it like within 3 years or something crazy like that.
Mm.
And then when he got to the UFC, he was like, oh, I made my goal. I did it. Now what? And I think he feels like he kind of squandered his UFC experience because, that's what happens. We set these goals and we had to achieve them. And then we're like, it's like there's so many
And
people realize the fear of failure, but they don't understand the fear of success. And the fear of success is a real thing too.
yeah,
And
I mean, yeah.
but for me, that's kind of how it was then. And that, again, now that Joey is with me, like he is my safe, like, so I feel safe with him no matter what. Like I could be in Virginia hanging out with my kids, being the best mom I can be. Like we took them to Disneyland and Disney World, and we've gone on major vacations and great things together, and ice skating. And it's the quality is so much better because it's not like the fighting the sad feelings or demons
Mm.
inside, because I feel so safe with Joey. It doesn't matter where we are.
Well,
So
and in this case, like, yeah,
yeah.
like,
And even with the goals, like with the title, like I just really want to win the title. Like really, I want it to be a perfect scenario with my fight world and like fighting and like making it worth it for everybody, like not only me but my kids, so they know the years I spent away and sacrifice was for something. To be a world champ is pretty significant. And then same thing with
yes,
Joey. He won a title and he defended it twice, so he's like 3-time world heavyweight champion. Like I want to show that I can be just as good as he is, and make him proud. And it really is kind of like that's my motivation factor. Instead of being like an escape from reality, it's like, all right, this is my reality is great now, but now I need something to make everything worth it, like something tangible that you can hold and see, that makes my whole 32 years of existence worth it so far.
yeah. It's like the crowning. Would this be like the crown jewel of your career?
Oh, for sure. I've always said that. Like even when from my first pro boxing bout to like, wow, this is like my 16th, I think 17th professional fight. I've always said that I just want a belt. I just
Mm.
want one belt. I don't care. I just want one belt, and it will just mean so much to me. And I've fought for a belt, crazy enough, twice now. And so this will be my third time. So it's like third time's the charm.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one. Let's see if that works. I love this because now I'm like, yo, you and your opponent and Christine are like now sort of fighting for that crown jewel. Like for her, it's the same kind of thing from the interview that will drop this week as well, or next week. Sorry. So
Well, that's why
it
it bothered, because I think I heard her say that in an interview. She was like, "You're a chump." She was a champ in her amateur career,
Mm.
and she has won the belt before in her professional career. So to me, it's like, I feel like it's the missing piece and component for people respecting me. If like that's what it takes for someone to
Mm.
respect you, to win a title once in your life. I mean, shit, if that's all I have to do to get respect, well, I hope that works.
Unfortunately, I feel like even there's a lot of champions that'll still get disrespected. I don't think it comes from like it's nothing like how do you say? Like it doesn't make sense sometimes. Like the reason people hate people or disrespect people or don't give them the respect is like, as I said, like it might be something ingrained like jealousy, or they just are just hating on other people's success. So also, I wouldn't be too surprised if it gets even worse after you won the belt. But then
Right.
it's like but then at least for yourself you have that like tangible thing, as you said, and the proof that to yourself that I am the best. Like no matter what these people say, I proved it and I got it. Yeah.
Right.
It's just weird how people like online haters work.
I know.
Anyway.
It's like, geez, it's so fun. It's gotten, like I said, it's definitely been a process dealing with it, but now it's almost kind of comical because it's like no matter what, like you could say, like to some people the sky is red and they would just run with it, even though
Yep.
you're looking at a blue sky, but it is what it is. Like I said, at the end
Flat
of the day, as long as I have
flat
the
Earth
things
people
that are
exist.
important.
Yeah. So yeah, but how do you like? Does it get to you? Does it like? How does it? How do you, deal with that now? Like the online, the trolls and the haters. Do you like?
You know, I guess I would be somewhat lying if I said it didn't bother me, but it bothers me less and less. Um, it just gets kind of old. Sometimes you can argue with people, and I'm like one of those like bleeding hearts, I guess you could say. Like I'm always trying to like change people's perspective for the better, and then it's like, so I try to please, but then it's like, I guess you just don't need to give any explanation, but sometimes it helps. And sometimes it's just like a waste of breath. So, I pick and choose my battles, I guess you could say, but it does definitely hurt my feelings to have people say that I suck or that I'm not good or I'm going to get
Mm.
smashed. And I'm just like, I hope people have realized that I've never gotten knocked down in my fighting career, and I've always had
That
really
is true,
great fights.
actually.
Like
Yeah.
The
The
I'm
Christine fight
super
was a
tough.
doctor
So
stoppage too. It was a cut that was like the doctor stopped it. It wasn't a knockout or a knockdown.
yeah, so I mean, I'm as tough as they come. So it's like, damn. And then when it comes to skills, it really hurts my feelings when people say, "Oh, she's mediocre in skill," and I'm like, again, I don't know. Mediocre fighters win 5 in a row, but I'm just a little bit different. But different isn't like bad. It just, I don't know. I think I just have
No, like
an awkward style.
it's like if you're looking at technically, if you're looking at like boxing wise, like boxing has its techniques, but also at the same time, like people find their own styles. I don't think you should teach kids because I box as well, and you shouldn't teach kids necessarily if they find their own like little swagger or their own way of standing and it makes them more comfortable. Let them hone their craft there and let them get their licks. Like let them get hit and learn how to deal with it in that style. If you limit them too much to a certain style, like that's when you maybe won't get the most potential out of them. Like there's a lot of unorthodox people. Um, I think bare knuckle. I wanted to get your opinion on this too because you brought it up. So in boxing, you've had a rough road in the beginning, and then once you got to bare knuckle, even for me, it's like I can't compare the two anymore because Paulie Malignaggi lost to Artem Lobov. That's never in boxing. There's not a single place on hell that's gonna happen. There's no way in hell that's gonna happen. It's just a different sport. It's scored differently. There's different techniques. So if you find your niche here, I think people look too much at, and I'm a culprit too. Like I look too much at it coming from boxing and as like in terms of boxing technique, but it's not. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how is it that suddenly you are on this like 4-0 run, right? And including like you even have a boxing win sprinkled in there. It's like 5-0 in all your fights, right?
Yep.
How is it that all of a sudden you made a shift and now you're winning, like in this new sport?
Yeah, I feel like it was really just, like I said, a lot of my fights, if you look at Box Rec, who I fought like world champions. I fought
You
really
fought
hard
Jamie
people.
Mitchell. The Miracle is
Yeah, and
now
I knew
world
that was
champion boxing.
that was a draw, but I feel like I
Was it a
beat
draw?
her. I feel like what?
Is it a draw?
Yeah, it was ruled a draw,
Okay.
but it was a 6-round draw at that, which is just like almost unheard of. But I really feel like I beat her. It was just in her hometown.
I haven't watched that.
So
I'll go watch that fight because I only
yeah,
because
definitely.
Jamie Mitchell just beat Shannon Courtney for the world title, and Shannon Courtney is class,
Yeah.
So this is I think that's still a feather in your cap though, boxing wise.
Yeah.
Although of
sure.
course you can
And
feel bad about if it's like if you did think you won, then
oh, I know
Yeah.
I won. One, I know I won. And second off, I took that fight on a 4-day notice and was like not in shape for that fight at all. So not in shape and I won, but they ruled it as a draw. So I just feel like I'm mountains. Like if I was in shape and had a 4-week fight camp, I would have destroyed her. So, but whatever. I guess that's, again, that goes back into those lessons that I've learned about staying fight ready instead of, like I said, I wasn't doing like having the best habits then. I had to be in a fight camp to be like devoted to it. Other than that, I would like, I still was going to the gym every day, but when I got home from the gym, I still was not being like super healthy, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Good
But
stuff.
yeah, no, boxing, I don't know. I feel like I went to Philly was where I was at, and I was there for 4 months, and I really felt like I was like really advanced there and really like figured out like the switch in my head on the difference of making it by to winning. And then it was like I won this big fight against Kim Wabeck, which was 2 weight classes above me and also a rematch. But the purse was only like $1,200. So that's not a lot of money when you're like giving up 4 months of your life to train for it. Cause
Yeah.
it was some other bullshit. Cause I was actually supposed to fight in June. And then because of COVID, it got pushed to July, and then it got canceled. And then I didn't fight until the end of August. So that's what prolonged that. But when I got the $1,200, I had to give all of it, like every penny, to my coach and their family for staying up there in Philly for that long. So then I had like really no money, and plus all my bills are coming out, and I was like, this just isn't cutting it. So I went back home to Virginia, because that's where I end up always going, because I'm like, dude, if I'm going to be miserable, I might as well be miserable next to my kids. So I went back to Virginia and was like, forget fighting. I actually kind of quit and was like, I just can't do this anymore with like COVID. And I'm just tired of sleeping out of my car. I'm tired of all this, and I just can't do it anymore.
Mhm.
And I started working as a bartender again, and like working mad shifts, like doubles, and I fixed my money issue. And then that's when BKFC gave me like a 2 weeks notice for a fight against Randine. And I was like, shit, I had just got crazy enough, another DUI. And so I really needed the money to pay off that whole lawyer fee. And so I was like, shit, I'll just take the fight for the money because I need a quick cash grab. And that was like, when I went into the
Said it all.
Randine fight, it was so crazy because, like, like I said, I definitely was not healthy at all at that time. I was doing
By the
like
way,
really
that
bad
was a
habits.
beautiful. That was a beautiful finish. That was a beautiful finish.
Yeah, I
I
was
like.
and you know what? But that's what I tell everyone. Like, I was like, man, I was so unhealthy and working a lot and going to the gym maybe 2-3 days a week. And I had that Randine fight, and it's one of the best fights, I think, skillfully. And I think it's because I think like what we say, like the enemy inside us is like the biggest one. Cause I feel like I was just kind of like, fuck it at that time. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I just need the
Yeah.
money. I don't fucking care. And
You
I
wouldn't.
went
You
in
probably
and
didn't
I was
even care
like
if you
so much.
lost. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I didn't. I really didn't care. I was just like,
Mhm.
man, I'm just doing this because I need the money. And when I went in, I was like, oh wow, I'm like, I could do that. I got it more than ever. Like, it just clicked with me. And I was
Mhm.
like, what was I thinking? It was like a huge wake up call. Like, it's kind of funny how the universe works, like it's like fishing. It bites and then it lets go. And then you're like, fuck this. I don't want to I've been out here for 3 hours and haven't caught a damn thing. And then you get one little nibble and it makes it start all over again. So it's always been like super exciting and passionate that way. Cause I'll be like, I'm done with this. And then that little, I was like, wow, why would I'm really, I'm the best. I'm the best at this. And then that's when I got the Paige fight. And then since then, now you guys have seen like the true transformation and evolution of like you said, from being just the girl to now I'm like a true fighter, household name type of thing. Because ever since that fight, I've trained in Puerto Rico. I trained with the best. Joey's an amazing legend in the sport. I've trained with some really great people at Boxar. I've been over in California and Ventura. I'm like with the best people, and I feel like I've just really figured it out. And I train literally every day. It's not like just in fight camp, and I don't drink.
Mhm.
I don't smoke. I'm doing really good.
You are. You're killing it. And I got a lot of respect for you. And after this interview, I got even more respect for you because, like a lot of the stuff I don't know, and I think a lot of the viewers don't know. So that's why what I like about this interview. It's like you really get to know the everything that goes in the background, the mental shifts and all of that. But so, did you before we go into fan questions next fan questions, and then I can let you go. One thing that caught your attention before the Page fight was the weigh-in, or the face-off, at least ceremonial weigh-in. What were you always like? You had this reaction like and then she grabbed you by the neck, and then you had this whole scuffle that went viral. Like, those are all parts of selling a fight that I don't know if it was like a reaction or it was planned.
No, it was definitely not planned. I mean, they did say
Because
like they
since
always
then,
like,
since then, you've been very vocal. You've been those people click, like you get clicks from the way you just speak your mind and attack other fighters for the things they said about you, like just publicly, and like, yeah.
Oh, well, that makes me feel good, because sometimes I'm like, dang, I hate, like, again, I hate when people think that I'm like disrespectful, or even, I guess, I hate that, because I don't want to be that. But it's like, you guys don't understand, like, what you're missing is that I'm not being disrespectful, I'm being disrespected, and so I'm retaliating in that form. But like with the Page, like, so with like the weigh-ins, I feel like I did like a very normal thing. Like when people weigh in, a lot of times you see people, they like even rest their foreheads or get nose to nose. Like, I have people do that. So that was my way of just being like, I'm not intimidated by you, and I didn't think it was going to be a big issue. But I did, I guess, walk up pretty fast on her. So, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm totally innocent in it, but I don't feel like I put my hands on her or like disrespected her. I feel like I did a kind of a normal thing in that realm. But when I did walk up on her, she put her hands around my throat. And for me, that was just like, again, I told you about, like, my past, like my ex-husband literally went to jail for strangulation. So like, that's just one thing I don't want to do in a heated moment. Like, it's like, I very much like have PTSD. And so when she did that, that's when you saw like that reaction was just like, literally wasn't being ratchet or ghetto or whatever. It was like a lot of emotions come back and fill me up when I think about things like that. And I kind of took it as that. And she was like, her reaction was weird too, because she was like, she kind of got scared. I feel like I feel like she wasn't expecting me to get that like, whoa, because it was like, she knew it was very real, serious thing. It wasn't a no, ha ha. I was pissed. And she was like, don't you touch me. And I'm like, but you touched me first. Then whatever I said, I said,
that
but I was
got in the way
definitely
of
mad.
her too. Like, that attitude also got in her way in the fight, I think. Of like, I think she just thought she was gonna just breeze through, and like that BKFC, maybe that was their intention, gave her a layup. Like, you were set up to lose that one to promote Paige. In the end, they ended up creating a poster girl for their own promotion, like a homegrown, and that's what I loved about this whole story, And now you're fighting for the title. Yeah. All right. Well, that was amazing, and we are going to go into some of the fan questions, and I picked one who always sends a question, and sorry, I forgot to mention his name last time, because I forgot to write down one of the names then. The fake Marlon Vera always, contributes. Can you give one compliment to each of Paige, Jenny, and Pearl, and Christine? P.S. You're a total badass.
Wait, you want me to give a compliment to those four fighters?
He wants one compliment each. Paige, Jenny, Pearl, and Christine.
All right. Well, Paige is my favorite. I think that I liked her post-fight interview. I think what she said about me was really nice. And I think that was a respectful way to go out, and for her to say, that I did good, and that someone asked her about a rematch with me, and she was like, I don't think I've earned it yet. So I think that's really cool. Okay. And I like that she went to a boxing gym. I hate that she, yeah. So that's good, right? That's good enough.
Yeah. Jenny.
Jenny's
our homie too. Like, you gotta,
I know. I'm like, fuck, I hate that girl. Good job on her last win. It was nice, I guess. Good. She won her last fight. Congrats.
That was beautiful boxing there. Gotta admit.
Right. It wasn't okay. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but she got the win. So coming back from a loss, I guess that's a pretty good thing to do. So
Okay, there we
kudos
go.
to me for not giving up.
I know this is hard for
Pearl,
you right now. I know this
I
is hard.
know, like, why can't, like, and people say it's so funny because it's like, it makes me seem like a disrespectful fighter, but you're literally telling me to give compliments to people who straight up have personally dissed me. And I mean, like, I like Jade and I love Rachel. I can give them compliments. I can give Audra and Crystal Pittman. I can give them
Oh,
mad compliments.
Rachel that was beautiful boxing against Paige. That was insane.
Yeah, she's so cool. I
yeah.
like her a lot. It was kind of funny because
I thought you would
in the
lose.
press
I thought you would lose at
conference-
first. And, like, this wasn't even close to me.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't
I
think.
know Paige
that.
thought
I
she
thought
won. I don't understand that. No,
Yeah.
but Pearl, I guess never mind. I guess the rest you were not gonna give compliments to Pearl. It's too
like,
soon.
Yeah, they would be fake. I'm not gonna lie. At least I'm a real person. They would all be
Yeah.
fake compliments. I don't like any of those
You can
girls
say like Pearl,
besides Paige.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Christine said that you have a lot of confidence in Hart, so maybe.
Well, that doesn't even make sense because she hashtags no heart all the time and says that I'm not confident, I'm stupid. So it's just kind of confusing. But I'll say
We have it on the record. It's gonna happen. It's gonna come out. Well,
yeah, but I guess, like I said, she has the most experience. I think she has way more experience than any other fighter. So
all right. Well, let's move on from this question. Frank Marlon Vera, you're getting blocked after this. Adela Borghetti, when is the last time you felt super overwhelmed, and what do you usually do when that happens?
when is the last time I felt super overwhelmed?
And what do you usually do when that happens?
Dang, I guess I do feel overwhelmed a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely do. Like even today, for example. But I guess it's just like taking a deep breath and getting it done and just like, better late than never, right? So finding like just a way to be positive or positive spin on something. Or like just making like one small step. So like there's a lot of times like even being like when we were like super sick, for example, and we're like still need to train, it's like, hey, you're doing the best you can do at the time. And I think once you realize that, it's easier to be like less overwhelmed and kind of just, start one step at a time.
If you put too much pressure on yourself, like a lot of it is unnecessary extra pressure, and you won't live up to that. And then you start blaming yourself and thinking you're a failure, like in the extreme sense. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
No, I'm big on the mental health thing too, so I like that question. Samuel the God 90, name one thing in fighting and one personal thing that you learned from your husband Joey. I guess we went over the personal thing, but like, what about if you want to answer them both, you can.
Yeah. Well, Joey's been really crucial. He's really worked with me with the clinch work. That's been really amazing and like really clicks with me. So that like physically, has really helped. Is the way he teaches how to do clinches and stuff is awesome. And then mentally, he's probably like the best person that you can learn from mentally out of any person I've ever met, because he like is never too big or proud to like do something to make himself better. Like he's always learning. Like he has a mental coach that he talks to like once a week. I think that's pretty impressive. I would personally never really do that, but the fact that he does is like, wow, maybe I should do that, because it's so easy for us to think that we have control of our lives, but and he does have control of his life, but he's still every week checks in. He's very big about like writing his goals down and writing stuff. And he's just really motivational. So really, I mean, like you said earlier, fighting is 80% mental. And I really feel like Joey's success has been because of his mental power is definitely underestimated on how his willpower is like so great, man.
I assume he's just been through this in the industry and the business side of things of this industry. He's also been through the meat grinder of it all, and it's like he now has all this experience that maybe he can relay onto you, not just fighting wise, like maybe on like maybe mistakes he thinks he made business wise, or things you have to pay attention for, because it's a dark, shitty industry. Like And we're trying to help fighters out too in this, but it's tough.
Yeah, we definitely
Mhm.
share a lot of our stories. So it'll be crazy because I tell them a lot of stories like how boxing works and like boxing politics. It seems that I, crazy enough that might be a little bit different than MMA politics, which I thought
Mm.
they would be kind of the same, but apparently they're not. So we'll share like horror stories that way. But we do have like, he has definitely his advice and take on like sponsors and managers and
Yeah,
the
stuff like
fight
that.
game in general.
Yeah. We talk to a lot of fighters all the time that get screwed over, and like they have their coaches be their managers, and then they demand a certain payment. Nobody else is allowed to bring them sponsors, and they're not bringing in enough sponsors. You know that, like it's like a hostage situation a lot of the time. Like anyway, there's a
Of
lot of those
course.
stories. Last one. Is it the last one? Okay. Andre DeSanctis, what are you actively doing to grow your fan base? What are your thoughts on girls that get a big promotional push because they're famous on OnlyFans?
Oh man. So what I try to be like, honestly, it sounds super silly and cliche, but I just am me. I think a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people
Yeah.
can appreciate somebody who's like, real and like not saying that people that are like fake that they're, that's just them and their thing. And like, if maybe they're trying to mask like an insecurity, but I think like when you're really you and put that out there every day, I feel like it actually is kind of rewarding because the people that really like you and want to be around you are like genuine. Like it was like Joey just said that too. Like, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And even though they're the same, I feel like that's the difference between me and like
Yeah.
these girls on OnlyFans. Like, not that there's anything wrong with it per se, because that's how they make their money and do what they want, then that's great. But
Yeah.
I'm still thinking I want to be, this is what my thing is like being a female. I've always felt like I want to be an equal. I want the same pay as men. I want the same TV time as men. Like I told you before, my career in sports, like women just don't get recognition, period, in sports. And I feel like a lot of the reasons why is because they're like almost like sexualized, or it's like a woman isn't as strong as a man,
Mm.
which isn't true. But when you're out there, in lingerie and on OnlyFans charging guys to look at your naked pictures, like how much respect can you really demand from them? And like how
Mm.
much of a leg do you have to stand on if you want equal pay? Because you're making it in a, like I said, not a wrong, but like a totally different, like someone who works for Playboy and is a Playboy, like a Playboy model, like that's awesome. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. Jennifer Aniston is an
Yeah, like
actress. That's what she's supposed to do. But we're fighters. So I feel like, trying to promote myself is like going to gyms and doing boxing clinics, working with kids, trying like supplements. And that's why
mm.
you see me like I'm really big like with Healthy One and like other like supplements like NatFit and NutriFit and like just things like that, like in the fitness industry.
Mm.
I try to make myself relevant, and then also just being like, I think something that makes me different from the other fighters is like I haven't been silver spoon fed. I've been rock bottom. I've been really low. I didn't
Mhm.
have money or a team to put behind me to build my record or to build me up. And because of that, it really made me who I am. But you hear those things like, oh, once you reach the top, change, or people get a little money and they start
Yeah.
being like,
Mm.
but that's obviously not the case with me. Like if you would have talked to me 4 years ago, I'm relatively the same, I'm pretty much the same person
That would
as
change.
far as like silly, outgoing, I like sports. It's just really in my personal like time away from everyone that's really changed. But as far as being like public and how I work and present myself, it's always been the same. And yeah, so I think for me, it's just going out there showing that you're a real
Yeah.
person, that I worked hard. I didn't do anything to take a shortcut. I didn't, have to sell my body. I didn't have to do this,
Engaging with the
which, like I
audience.
said, it is what it is, if that's what people are into. But I didn't have to
Yeah.
do that. So because I didn't have to do that, that means a lot of other people don't have to do it. So, like, I mean, the
Mhm.
same thing, like, with my, and you hear some people, they'll be like, oh, we see you online with bathing suit pictures. And I'm like, all right, check this out. This is like the biggest thing. Like, people know what the fuck they're doing. Okay. If I was to show my Instagram to my kids, or any kid for that fact, I honestly do not think that they would have a problem with it, because I'm in a bathing suit on a beach with sand, or, with
Context
my
is
family, or
different.
a water
Yeah.
park, or volleyball,
Mhm.
or whatever the case be. Or even if it's like, a Sport Illustrated or a model shoot, like, those are different. Those are cool. But when you're like in whips and chains, or like, X's over your titties, like that, maybe I wouldn't show to kids. I wouldn't show on my
Yeah.
thing. So that's kind of the difference with,
I
I'm
think, like,
definitely like empowering, like women empowerment, but like to be like a boss and like a queen, and like, to me, that's like a different set of standards, in my opinion. And I don't know, I feel like I do that, and I feel like, again, I haven't bought any followers. The followings that I have is real, and again, it might not be 100,000, and not be a whole lot, but they're definitely quarters. They're quarters, and those people will follow me forever, and like, are true fans. They're not pennies. So big shout out to my fans, because anyone who's on there and that I talk to, they're definitely like so worthy and mean so much to me. And I think that's why I got Fighter of the Year. Like, 50, like, I thought for sure Taylor would get it. I mean, she's 3-0, and she's like that whole image and whatnot. But it really goes to show that, my fans are super loyal in the fact that they're fighting fans.
How was it chosen? How was it picked? Was it a fan vote?
Yeah, it was a fan vote. It was on like YouTube,
Okay.
on the YouTube channel.
Dude, that's nice. I think because a lot of the people that also aren't following you, maybe that went to vote, are like, oh yeah, she's there and she deserves it.
Right.
Because
And it
it's
was
not
like,
just
really, I really didn't, you know what? It's funny. I didn't even vote. For myself. Swear to God. Didn't vote. And I was like, I really didn't even push it, because I was like, I don't even want to get my hopes up and put effort into this. It is what it is. But you got to think, like, I only had like 40,000 followers. Rachel has like 200,000. Taylor
Right.
has like 70,000. Christine has 60,000. So out of all the fighters, I have the lowest amount of followers, but I still got 56% of the votes. So it just shows, like, the quality. Like, you got to look at the quality of what that is, instead of people that are just tuning in to see you naked.
I think if you have like 46,000 followers, they're mostly fight fans, and for the rest, it's all like trickled down. Like Rachel, I'm sure like there's a lot of OnlyFans people, there's a lot of MMA people that don't watch BKFC, and there's a lot of that sprinkled in. But for you, it's like pure. You hit the niche maybe of like, they're here for this, for the bare knuckle fighting. Yeah.
Right.
That's yeah. And this is a whole discussion we can have, and that's a whole other podcast. But to me, it comes down to the more viewers you get, the more asses and seats you put, the more you get paid. And that's what I like about MMA, as opposed to, and we're trying to help women's boxing a lot this year, because I think this is the year for it, and I want it to get to the level at least where women's MMA is at, where like, I don't care if there's a male fight or a top level female fight, we all tune in, because and they get paid according to how many people are tuning in. So that's how it should be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I wish that was the case, because there's some awesome
Yeah.
women out there. Like, Alicia Baumgartner just won her title overseas.
Trying to get her on. We're gonna get her on the show too.
Yeah, she's on. Yep. I actually, yeah. I was her
I
pro
love her style.
debut, so I fought her once before too in my boxing.
Wow. This is like, I hadn't seen like her style. I hadn't seen in the women yet, and I bet on her. I bet on her to win, and I made some money on her. Like, because I'm like,
Oh, that's awesome.
this style is tricky. Like, if she's a 41, she was like almost 41 underdog. Like, I'll take my chances on that one, and she
Yep.
did. And I like the attitude. Like, there was that attitude. It was like, from the weigh-ins, I'm like, no, she's not gonna be a pushover. Like, even if she loses several rounds in the beginning, she's not gonna give up. And I see Terry Harper faltering in the end. Like, yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm shouting out this one last, the Fighting Now. It's a page that's been also like supporting us lately, and they support all these women's fighters. Always put on like women's fighters, and I promise to have them give you a question too. How prepared are you for this huge fight?
So I am really prepared. I actually, crazy enough, I went out to Puerto Rico to help Elvin with his upcoming bare knuckle fight in Jackson, Mississippi. So I actually found out that I was fighting Christine while I was over there. So I didn't really know until I was out there. So like we were running mountains every day, sprints, elevation. We were training really hard just because of his fight camp. So that was like my awesome base. I mean, we were working out like 2-3 times a day, 5 days a week. And even our active recovery was like swimming in the ocean and stuff like that. So that just really put me like catapulted me ahead in my cardio. And now I've been today's Friday, so this is my full week of training here in Miami, and then I actually fly out to California tomorrow. So that's gonna start like the segment of like my fight camp with my coach Haas out there. And so yeah, I'm like I feel more prepared than ever. I feel like, you know, running, it was super cool. Running those mountains, I did really good. And then when I came here to pick it back up, it was like a breeze. Like, so running is super easy for me. The workouts are getting easy. I feel like my core is in better condition than it's ever been. And I still don't even truly feel like my fight camp has started. Like I said, I feel like it starts
Right.
tomorrow being
Yeah.
in California. And it's 4 weeks away. So it's right now the 4-week countdown.
Perfect.
Skill wise, you know, I feel like I'm seeing things a lot more. I'm defensively more sound. And yeah, some other little tricks up my sleeve that I can't share, but I'm feeling really, really good. And just to know, like I keep thinking in my head is like I take fights on 2-week, 3 weeks notice all the time. So just like the fact that I had like the 3 weeks ahead of time already I spent 3 weeks in Puerto Rico, 1 week here. So that's 4 weeks already in the books, already training every damn day, hard as shit. Now I'm going out to California tomorrow for 4 more weeks. Like, and out there we got the sand hill and we have like all these other sprints and beach runs. And my coach is definitely an elite boxing trainer. So there's a UFC girl out there that's going to be my sparring partner. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. I think I'm super prepared. I'm healthy, wealthy, want this. I have all the missing pieces.
And
My
mentally
relationship,
there.
my husband is amazing. My kids are healthy. I have the best friends in the world. I have the best fans in the world. I'm super, I just don't even know how I could be more prepared.
Right. Well, guys, this goes down February 19th, Knucklemania 2. You can subscribe on the Bare Knuckle FC app or website. You can get the it's not a pay-per-view, it's like a subscription. And it's very cheap. I think it's $5, is it, to get everything, the pay-per-views as well. It's like $2 a month for like the regular fight nights, and then $5 you get the pay-per-views as well. So guys, it's definitely worth it. Night full of action. This card is stacked, and this title fight you don't want to miss because it's the first 125-pound title in BKFC history. And I wish you luck. I wish both of you luck, and I just don't want anyone to lose, but someone will, and it's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are predicting it to be the best fight that BKFC. I feel like it. I almost wish that we were main event, really, because
I think you should
definitely
be
a
a
main
man. I
event
told you
worthy.
this is it surprised me.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it will. It definitely has the potential to be one of the best fights. But I'm actually really hoping it's a super easy fight. So we shall see. But I do see that fans anticipate it to be the biggest banger they've had yet.
They do, and media does. We talk amongst each other, and everybody agrees with you there. I can tell you. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Britton. It was great to have you, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for staying in touch with me and getting this interview done. I hope you have the best weekend, and I cannot wait for February 19th.